Hey, it's Barb with Inspire Me 360, and you may notice I'm a little bit tired in this video. It's been a bit of a long 2 weeks. I've been kind of working 2 weeks back to back, but I always try to jot down my notes and come up with something, inspirational. A lot of times the things that I talk about are also things that I'm dealing with in my own life and things that I'm synthesizing through. So one of the things that kind of popped out to me in the last week was this concept that there's some people that we will meet or that will be in our lives that we just can't help but love in this incredibly deep way. And that those individuals may not match the frequency or the intensity of unconditionally loving energy that we have for them. And I've had this happen numerous times with a lot of young people, young staff members that have come into my world where, again, I just feel this soul connection with them. Sometimes I see a little bit of their brokenness, maybe areas where their parents have failed them or society has failed them. I also have this experience with students a lot of the time where I just see this light in them. I just see this incredible spirit. And, my nature is to just love on them, just to give them everything that I possibly can and lift them up and be there for them. And the thing that I have to remind myself and anybody that is, out there working with the community, in a job, it doesn't even matter what position it is. Maybe you're a Cub Scout leader, or maybe you are a teacher, or you're working in some sort of an environment where you get to touch the lives of others. And sometimes this can be a deeply painful process when we have this open heart, unconditional loving energy, because when you're giving your love to another human being, when you're opening yourself up and essentially giving, especially that maternal energy. I think women go through this a lot, but men I'm sure do as well. And you kind of become like that mentor. There's a lot from a soul level that goes into that type of beautiful energy. And you do form this unconditional loving bond with that other individual. And that can oftentimes put you in a position to become hurt, or if you don't understand the principle of unconditional love in its totality, your three-dimensional egoic mind can become hurt. And this is where we have to really dissect what the mechanism and purpose of unconditional love means. And it essentially means to give everything that you are, the totality of the depth of what you are capable of, to others, or to all others, or those that you feel magnetized towards. Because a lot of times somebody will just be across a room and you'll have this kind of instant soul recognition with them, and you just feel this pull towards them, and you don't know exactly what it is. And I've gone through this many times in my life, and it's just like you want to care for that person. You have this sorry, I've got a sore throat today too. You have this protective energy about that individual, and it really isn't coming from anything logical. You maybe haven't known that person very long, or maybe it is your first meeting, but you can just sort of see into their soul. And you can kind of sometimes, the way that I experience it is that I can see this beautiful light that is almost in some way dampened, like the world has dampened the light of this beautiful soul. And I feel like, you just feel magnetized to want to show them through actions, through words, through your time, how incredibly beautiful they are. But the other thing to note here is that sometimes those individuals are not going to mirror back to you the same level of loving energy that you are capable of. Because if you have done a lot of the work on yourself, and if you are extremely high vibrational in terms of utilizing this unconditional loving energy, these individuals that you are giving your time, your love, your light to may be from a three-dimensional aspect in a very wounded place. They may have trauma, they may have, there's a million reasons why they can be blocked to that intensity of loving energy. And so what will happen and how it will sort of manifest is that you will give and you'll feel this sort of pulling away energy. And essentially, in a way, sometimes it can be a bit too much for them because they don't understand how to articulate it. Take a broken child or a child that's come from no love. They've never had a family around them, or they've never experienced that consistent care from the world. And all of a sudden, you're giving this consistent, caring, high vibrational, very open-hearted energy, and it feels often to them a little bit triggering, because essentially, again, and sometimes we can fall back into our egoic mind as well, and we can be triggered. We have sometimes this expectation that they're going to be able to meet us where we are. And the more spiritually awake you are, the more work you've done, the more you are really calibrating on that scale of unconditional love, you have to understand that there's not going to be that many people that are going to be able to match you at that level and go as deep as you can go. It's loving in this type of deep way. It is not the prevalent energy of planet Earth. It's not what most people are capable of doing. So you have to be able to guard your own energy and not get hurt when people cannot match your vibration. Okay? And I think that this is really important, because you can have your off days and you can think, what's wrong with me? Why am I not lovable? Why can't I share these feelings with others? And the fact of the matter is, you can, on a superficial level, you can certainly meet a myriad of people on that superficial three-dimensional level, and most individuals that are unawake are totally fine with it. They see no lack, they see no deficit in the connection. It's you that is perceiving a deficit in the connection, or some sort of disconnect, because you have the capacity to go so deep. And this is the thing, the energy is so incredibly rare of individuals that are going to be able to go to that depth with you. It's like, a couple times in a lifetime that you'll be able to create these long-standing, extremely deep emotional bonds with other individuals. Because for the most part, here on planet Earth, where we are right now in terms of human interconnection and interaction, a lot of it is very surface level, a lot of it is very superficial. And when we're talking about superficial, surface level communication that doesn't take, years and years to forge these incredible bonds, it's kind of a take it or leave it energy. A lot of individuals, especially in the more modern era, kind of have that fast food kind of pick up and let go energy about relationships. And it's easy to move on to the next. It's easy to find a new friend. It's easy to go on Tinder and get somebody to I've never been on those apps, but we have a system within our current society that getting superficial attention, superficial instant gratification that has zero depth to it is very easy. And because it's so available, it tends to become the dominant operant for most people. Because you think about it, before technology, we were out on these farms, and you needed people to help you. Everything was spread out. If we're looking at, historically, 150 years ago, and for most of recorded history, you needed to form deep bonds because you needed people for survival. There was things to harvest. There was, heavy things to move around. Individuals, communities had to rely on each other for basic survival. So in and of that, the friendships were lifelong. You literally needed to know if these neighbors or if these people beside you had your back in terms of life or death situations, okay? In the modern times, there's no requirement for that. Our relationships don't necessitate that type of depth. So therefore, they tend to have this kind of surface level essence to them. However, if you identify with being a very ancient soul, if you feel like you have lived many lifetimes, you've gone through, many experiences, you will carry a certain frequency, a certain depth of how you interact and communicate with others. And this is part of that unconditional loving energy. And to a lot of those that are essentially asleep, I don't want to say asleep, but very, very superficial, that energy is very triggering to them because it's scary. It's a depth that perhaps they haven't even conceived of. Maybe they've watched it in a movie that lasted 2 hours, but it's not something that they've maybe touched the energy of that in everyday life. And so, the love that you give them or have given them, make no mistake, they will think about it for the rest of their life. They may not admit it to you, they may not put that into words, but you have to remember that loving any other human being, whether it's in a relationship or platonically, if you are bringing all of what you are to that relationship in an open, honest, raw, real way, and you are being yourself, so you are not walking in fear. Because what prevents most people from being that full version of themselves, that undistilled version, is fear of rejection, fear of that person is going to think I'm too much, or just fear of what others will think about having an energy that is so kind of all-encompassing. Now, I want to differentiate this. This doesn't mean that you harass people, okay? There's two sides of the coin. When I'm dealing with students and I'm loving on them, and if I identify a student that's maybe from a broken home or somebody that hasn't had this type of energy in their life, I'm not like blowing up their phone 10 times a day and just, harassing them. That's not the type of energy I'm talking about. That's a very egoic energy. That's a very desperate energy. And I can tell because I obviously am capable of operating in both types of energies, okay? I can very acutely tell when I am coming from my egoic, scared mind. And for me, that tends to show up in my interpersonal relationships, okay? That's where I can sometimes fall back into ego, okay, due to that fear of rejection. And that's a human fear. We all have that little voice inside of us that says, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not enough, maybe there's parts of me that irritate others, and that can come from a long list of childhood issues. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but what I do want to say is that the gift of love you give others, whether it be platonically or in a romantic sense, whatever the relationship is, when you love from your true, authentic frequency of your soul, that is by far the most beautiful gift you can give the world and give that other person. Now, they may not be ready to meet you there. They may not be able to handle the intensity of who you are. and this is why I'm making the video, don't worry about that. Be you. If you are an intense person and you need that level of depth and intensity to feel what your heart needs to feel, to have that complexity and that depth within your human life experience, then don't diminish it. Don't worry that that person couldn't hold your energetic frequency. Or in the case of a platonic relationship where you are physically trying to help enlighten another person or lift them up and show them the beauty of what connection and loving family and community is, and the expression of that, if they reject it, don't take that to stop helping people. I have had this happen many, many times with young people that I've helped. And a lot of times it's overwhelming for them to have an energy of, coming from no family structure, nothing, just not understanding what love even looks like, to, having family dinners or being invited to things, or having this maternal energy check in on you and tell you you are amazing. And this is the thing about unconditional love. You're not always going to see the effects of it. You're not always going to kind of hear back on how